everybody. Please be happy that my camera quality isn't absolutely the greatest and that I have to illuminate myself to even be visible, which makes me a tiny bit washed out because on some nights I could cosplay the Plague Bearer Bishop from Bloodlines without much effort, and it's one of those nights. So, it's a good thing that you can't see that. Now, without further ado, let us continue with our endeavor to play all of Vampire the Masquerade Games Jam submissions. And today we are playing Amsterdam by Night, Canals of Conspiracy. We're gonna run the game and then figure out if it has sound or not. Ooh, start. Yeah. It's the warning that everybody's like, that it's not canon stuff. Okay, no music! Time to make our own music. This is just gonna be the chillest Amsterdam ever. So I'm just gonna vibe. This is Amsterdam's famous red light district, De Walen. Neon lights light up the night, shining down from bars and coffee shops. Many ground floor windows are brightly lit in displays of Amsterdam's famous window prostitution. People are walking shoulder to shoulder along the canals and through the narrow streets of the district. It is a heaving mass of people filled with the drunk, the high, and the horny. Many locals scorn the place as a tourist trap, complaining about the disappearance of stores for daily necessities and their replacement by touristy kitsch. You have more than one street, right? Like, you can just move the regular normal people thing off a single street, right? However, it is the ideal place for any kindred to feed. It is a piece of cake to lure away a tourist and take a quiet bite. Any disorientation will be attributed to drugs or alcohol. This area has been the domain of Amsterdam's Storyteller Primigem for centuries. He has seen the district through many changes, and his rule is largely uncontested, even today. However, he is willing to let kindred walk and feed in his domain for a price. For a monthly fee of $9.99. No, wait. Paid in cash or favors, any of Amsterdam's kindred are allowed freedom of the red light district. Kindred subscription service. It should be a thing. For a low fee of $9.99 a month, I'll let you live. You availed yourself of this option. You have been a part of Clan Ventry for 15 years now. Recently, your situation has become stable enough that you have the funds to make feeding exceptionally easier. There have been no problems until now. Recently, rumors have spread that some kindred have been hitting sick after feeding in the red light district. The master of this domain has asked you to attend him in order to make use of your investigative expertise. Something you have been quietly making a reputation for these past few years. An investigation into mysterious illness would be well within your capabilities. What do you do? Well, hi Primigem. The Primigem meets you in a building on one of the canals. There is a brothel on the lower floors, but the top floor is richly furnished, and we vibing with the lo-fi beats as well, by the way. This is so chill that it makes me think that my venture has hit up a joint before going anywhere. Wood-paneled walls and old-fashioned furniture are reminders of an earlier era. On the walls are what look to be paintings of the 17th century Dutch masters. By the look of light and shadow in one, you think it might even be a Rembrandt. Wow, expensive. Much wow. Still very chill though. This is why you should definitely put sounds in your game, otherwise I will just take something at random. And whether or not it's gonna be fitting, it's gonna be a 50-50 thing. The Primigem is standing with his back to you, staring out of the window to the lights on the canal below. When he finally turns around, he fixes you with a penetrating stare. You have not met him in person. All your business was done with his subordinates. He's not the pretty young thing that is the stereotypical toreador. He seems in his mid-50s, though depending on what century he was embraced, he might be younger. Oh no, you're stating that people looked older at one point. Oof. His face is broad and pockmarked, but his eyes are fiercely intelligent. His hair is long, salt and pepper gathered in a low ponytail. In his hands, he holds a glass of something dark and red. Oh gee, I wonder if it's grape juice! So you have arrived. As you might have heard, some of the blood supply in my domain is tainted. After drinking from some kind, kindred turn weak and lethargic, near torpid. It is an acceptable risk to my domain. I want you to find out what's going on. What do you say? I say that people in the mid-50s can still be very, very attractive, and people overestimate the power of youth. Like, most people in their teens have hormonal issues, no idea how to style themselves, and probably body hair in all the wrong spots, even if they try to remove it. Like, imagine trying to figure out what style of brow fits you, and then you get embraced as like a 17-year-old with acne and with brows that don't make any sense, and that's how you stuck for all eternity unless you paint some back on. You know, it wouldn't be a nice experience now, would it? Now, if you're targeting somebody in the 50s, they probably know what they look good in. Probably do. They have had a lot of experience. Their appearance is probably nice and stable. You know. Of course, some people have harder lives than others, so they end up looking more aged than others, but there's that beauty and maturity, so I don't necessarily agree that youth is all that beautiful, even though I know that whenever I state that, a lot of men run in going, women are the most fertile in their teen years, therefore, and it's honestly a very gross statement, so could you not, please? Well, what information do you have already? This is the information as I have it. Something in the blood of the kine in this area causes lethargy and weakness, almost torpor. As far as I know, the problem only crops up here and apparently randomly. You have found no connection between the kindred who succumbed and the kind they fed from were impossible to trace. The first reports came in 5 weeks ago. Last night my right-hand man was affected. That was the last drop. Considering the area, is not surprising that most kindred don't know where the kind have been when they feed on them. However, my man is barely responsive and he has predictable habits. He likes to feed at certain locations, the Black Lion Bar, the Andreas Cross Cafe, and the Amsterdam. Some kind of restaurant, I believe. Unfortunately, that is all we know so far. I will rely. Come on, brain, is it rely or is it relay? I'm pretty sure it's gonna be rely on you to get to the truth of the matter. If you're successful, I will offer you 6 months free feeding in my domain. What do you do? Well, apparently the candy on the stick is just like nice enough that my dude is not even thinking about it. I will go to the restaurant. The thing is, if you're feeding on people and people are migrating everywhere, it shouldn't matter that you have predictable habits, because even, let's say that you feed exclusively in an expensive restaurant, right? And you know that only a certain kind of people tap that restaurant. They're higher class. Maybe they're not into having a lot of drugs and screwing a lot of women before they come there normally, because, well, you know, they're all too good for that. Har, har, har. Even though I'm pretty sure that higher society people actually consume more drugs because they're more widely accessible for them, not to mention they can afford them. But let's just say that normally people that visit your restaurant are respectable people. Okay, imagine that a tourist that is normally of different disposition has decided to really splurge, take out a loan, and take his wife on a wonderful experience. You should never take out loans, by the way, but let's just say that she's dying from cancer and they don't have a lot of time, so he doesn't care about the financial responsibility. So he goes, you know what, I'm taking out 20 grand, we're going to Amsterdam and we're going to have a jolly good time. And they engage into absolutely everything that they can engage in, and then they go out and they buy expensive outfits and they visit your favorite restaurant. Well, guess what? Now that person is not the kind of person that you would normally feed from, but they're now on your feeding grounds and you might have fed from them. See the problem with feeding on people? You can't actually like track them, right? Right. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk on feeding etiquette, I guess. The Amsterdam is a name after the famous brownish posts with the 3 crosses of the city on them, which keep traffic off the sidewalks. What? What? It is a pancake house of all things. It is decorated like many other pancake houses with Delft-blauw plates and other types of porcelain along the walls. Decorations in the restaurant's old-fashioned floral wallpaper. I'm sorry. Brownish posts with 3 crosses of the city on them, which keep the traffic off the sidewalks. No, I'm sorry, I'm just Googling the word now because... What? Oh! Okay! It is actually a thing! Wow! Things you learn! Oh, the small bar section is lively. The majority of people are eating in the restaurant area, even at this time of night. From the general aroma, many of the customers have come from the coffee shop next door. It's an intelligent business move to put a pancake house next to a place where people are smoking pot. What do? You leave! No, let's talk with the employee. What has been happening, eh? Most of the employees of the place are busy, but it seems like the bartender has a moment. You approach as he nods at you. You nod as well and order a beer from the tap. You lean sideways against the bar and ask your question. Good evening. I heard that there was something weird going on in the area. I've heard a blog about the city and I was wondering if you knew anything about it. The bartender looks you up and down and gives you a doubtful look. Weird in what way? I mean, there's this guy who goes by on a skateboard playing the trombone at precisely 10 every night. Okay, that's weird, but not what you're looking for. Hey! If any of you are looking for ways to live your life, right? Be the guy that goes down on a skateboard playing the trombone at precisely 10 every night. Be that guy because you are gonna be very, very memorable and you're just gonna be assigned to live freely to somebody else. So be the girl that jumps in the tutu in the nearby fountains. Chase pigeons. Scream at pigeons, which will make people really, really question your history. Like, actually, the screaming is not illegal. So, very weird thing to do. Like, nobody does it, but there's actually no laws against doing it unless you're in like a sleepy region, so yeah, just go ahead and scream at pigeons if you feel like it. Wear a hot dog outfit. Play the harmonica. Do all the things. Be the trombone dude. When you take a closer look at him, you can tell he's holding something back. What do you do? Dominate! Use your power of dominate to get the information out of him. His mind bends to yours and he begins to talk. Okay, so nothing is weird here. He nods at the restaurant, but yesterday I overheard the owner of the Lower House coffee shop next door complaining to the manager something about contamination some of the pot he sells. I was pretty pissed about it and on a warpath to find out who did it. That points to the coffee shop next door. Okay, let's go there. The lower house is a long but fairly narrow space with a glass counter in the back where the varieties of marijuana that are sold here are displayed. I hope that YouTube does not hit me for saucy words like weed. It is well lit with soft yellow lights with beanbags and sofas spread around the place. Several people are lounging in them and smoking pot. The smell is acute. Behind the counter stands a tall, broad man in his 50s who waves cheerfully at you. You go over to talk to him. "Good evening, sir. How can I help you?" he asks when you get up to the counter. "Heard you had some problems with the product. Maybe I can help." He frowns angrily. "I have no idea what you're talking about. If you're not here to buy, you can leave." You look him up and down. He seems in no mood to be persuaded, and if you want information out of him, you will have to use your powers. Dominate! We are a venture, after all. Use your power of dominate to force him to talk. His mind bends to yours and he begins to speak. "I guess I can tell you. Someone has been tampering with my supplies. Only noticed it by accident. I noticed the reflection of the powder where it had been mixed in well. I had a buddy check what it is, but they can't make heads or tails with it." Scowls. "Haven't found who has done it yet, but yesterday I found this vial of powder under a cupboard. Here, you can have it." You take the vial of powder from him. "This looks exactly what you need. Maybe you can figure out what it is." I leave. Who can analyze the suspicious vial of powder, please? The guy you think can analyze what is in the vial is a thin-blood alchemist of your acquaintance. Thin-bloods are not exactly tolerated in polite kindred society in Amsterdam, but apparently they're geniuses when it comes to substances, so I have no idea why you would not want that. It's kind of like saying I don't want Nosferatu. I mean, they're really, really good with technology and everything, but they look yucky. But they're not exactly haunted either. However, they fall outside of the tradition of destruction, so any kindred is free to kill them without getting in trouble with the prince. Regardless, a small thin-blood community has flourished in the city. Are they all hippies? Please be all hippies. It's the name of the flourish. It reminds me of the name Flower, and I just go, nice, bro. With many offering services valuable enough to bring a reasonable amount of safety. The person you're going to visit is one of those. He runs a business selling various alchemical substances with chemical and alchemical analysis on the side. He owes you several favors, so he quickly ushers you into his lab in the basement of a Nosferatu-owned building in the eastern Docklands, in a relatively new residential area. It is a stone's throw away from the IJ, the waterway which leads to the IJ Lake, and from there to the Marker Lake further north. Before you enter, you briefly take in the view. It's not terrible, even at this time of night. "So what can I do for you, my friend?" the thin blood asks. "You can tell me what's in here," you say as you hand him the vial. He shakes it, holds it in the light and squints at it. "Ah, that's not something I've seen before. Gonna take a bit to figure out. You can stay here. Or if you want to do me a favor, you can scare away those kids that are drinking around the back. They keep on going there. It's annoying. Maybe a good fright will keep them from coming back. I'll consider it payment for this." But, Thin Blood, you already owe me stuff." As he shakes the vial again. Now you're paying attention, you can hear faint laughter, shouts, and the sound of breaking glass. What do you do? "Okay, I'll deal with the kids. I mean, I have nothing else to do." It shouldn't be hard to deal with, and it's a small thing to do in exchange for his analysis of the substance in the vial. You go around the back to where you hear the noise and see a group of high schoolers, probably in their final year, in a little nook. It is hidden from most sight by a stair and a low wall. They're sitting on overturned beer crates around an actual low fire and a metal bucket. Shattered bottles are piled in a corner and they seem to be playing some sort of throwing game. They don't seem to have noticed you yet. What do you do? I'm just gonna go ooga ooga booga because I feel like I've overused my powers, honestly. This doesn't look like it needs anything supernatural to scare the kids off. You step out into the firelight, making sure to look as intimidating as you can and speak. "So what the fuck do you think you're doing here? Fuck off and don't come back." They're startled by your appearance and seem a little scared. Then one of them gets up and raises his hands. Geez, whatever, we'll go. Come on, guys, it's not worth the trouble. You reluctantly leave and you glare after them to make sure that they're really gone. That should do it for now, and you head back inside. It's dealt with, you say, and the Thin Blood hums, busy at his instruments. You plop down on a ratty sofa and wait until he is done. Suddenly the Thin Blood jumps up from his instruments. I've got it! Oh man! YouTube, Are you questioning if I'm present? No, you're not. Good boy, YouTube. I think they actually had to mute it for copyright. Yep. There we go. So what is it, you ask? That's some blood sorcery shit, man. Never seen anything like it before. Blood sorcery? Yeah, genuine Tremere special. It's poison, of course, intended to weaken kindred to near torpor as far as I can tell. Oh, that's nasty. Are you sure it's Tremere? That would be quite the accusation. Like 99%, so can I keep this stuff? He points at what powder is left. You deny it reflexively and keep an eagle eye on him as he gathers the remainder of the powder and returns it to you. Okay, we will have to report this to the Primogen. You return to the building where you met the Primogen. It doesn't take long to be shown to him. This time he is sitting behind a desk reading a file. When you come in, he gestures you to a chair in front of it. He looks you in the eye and raises an eyebrow. You tell him about the powder and how it contaminated the marijuana and thrown dead blood of the kind. When you mention the Tremere origins of the poison, he snarls. He got very still on the face of an ancient predator. Closes his eyes and takes a minute to compose himself. When he seems calmer, he says that the usurpers would go to such lengths. Your contract absolutely sure it's the Tremere? There's an undertone of violence in his voice. You nod meekly. He gave me a 99% odds on the powder being made by Tremere. He hisses in his throat. But which Tremere is responsible? Would that I could get the prince to let me examine the lot. But alas, that is impossible. He looks genuinely crestfallen at that. Do you have any way to find out who made this specifically? Shake your head. Not with just the powder. He nods. Very well. I happen to know someone who might be able to. But I cannot trust her loyalties. There is a renegade Tremere in town. One who claims to be unaffiliated with the Chantry. Whatever that is true. Trails off, looking contemplative. She's staying in an apartment in Amstelveen. Go speak with her on my behalf. Tell her I will grant her a minor boon and will speak to the prince on her behalf if she can tell me which Tremere is responsible for the powder. And before she's like, it was me all along. My plan is working perfectly. You nod and make your excuses. Excuse me. Excuse me, the door is here. You can tell he's balancing on a knife edge and you are trying your hardest not to provoke him. You go meet with the renegade Tremere. You head over to Amstelveen, one of the municipalities bordering Amsterdam, generally considered part of the greater Amsterdam area. It is basically a bedroom community for Amsterdam, though recently several international companies have opened offices there. The Tremere you're looking for is living in a newish, relatively upscale apartment complex. He has obviously been appraised of your arrival and lets you in without comment. After the pleasantries are over and done with, you explain the situation, including the Primogen's offer, and hand over a sample of the powder. He observes it for a while, obviously using superhuman senses, and then hums thoughtfully. I've never seen anything like this before, but I can recognize the principles on which it has been created. I believe I know a ritual that will give me more information. Is it a complex ritual? Not necessarily, but I do prefer privacy when I perform my rituals. I've set up the second bedroom as a ritual room. I'll need about an hour. You can stay here if you want. You agree easily? You could insist on being in the room with her, but it's not like you would understand anything you would see. She could easily lie to you whether you're there or not. He disappears into the room and you decide to have a nose around the living room. Unfortunately, she doesn't seem to have settled in yet, and the room is utterly impersonal. Suicide poking around the master bedroom wouldn't be worth any words that may or may not be on the door. After a little more than an hour, she exits the room again. You think you can perceive some very worry behind her blank face. Art is a masterful work of blood sorcery. Would require many years of experience and study to be able to create it. I wouldn't be able to do so myself. In fact, unless it came from elsewhere, there is only one Tremere in the city who would be able to do so. By necessity, I'm aware of all the Tremere in the city. It could only have been done by the regent of the Chantry, and I think I recognize some of his style and the structure. You hiss behind your teeth. The regent is in charge of the Chantry and all the Tremere in the city. In Amsterdam, it is an elder, though as far as you know, he only arrived in the city a few decades ago. Rumors say that before he came to Amsterdam to take over here, he had a high position in the Vienna Chantry. Oh, and by the way, just imagine like a smooth radio playing into every single apartment that we walk into. Before the Second Inquisition destroyed it, the center of power of Clan Tremere. Are you sure of it, you ask? As I understand it, you have reason to mislike the regent. I understand where you're coming from, but no Tremere is aware I'm in the area. It would go badly for me if the regent found out that I shared this. Worse that if he simply found out I was here. Alright, you say. I have to go report this. He shows you out and you make your way back to Amsterdam proper. Simple job seems to have you caught between feuding elders. This could end very badly for you. You go and report to the Primogen. Well, really, it's none of my business. You guys can you do your thing. I'm just here cosplaying Bishop from Downtown Bloodlines. Don't mind me. AKA being kinda tired and crazy looking. Don't mind. So the usual, I guess. Though I commend the girly for having a ritual room made out of second bedroom, because guess where I am? Right, so some people like have altar rooms in their house. I don't have that many rooms, but there are 2 bedrooms in this apartment building. Not the whole building. I mean, in this apartment specifically. There are 2 bedrooms. I am sitting in my second bedroom. I have converted this room into my ritual room plus my work room. So, I burned quite a lot of paper today. Most of the ashes are inside this nice little candle that's on my desk right now. The place kind of smells like ash, and I do like the smell. Even I ventilate it pretty well, but you know, if I'm gonna get a bit of CO2 poisoning, it's fine. I do like the smell of it. And it's painted nice and grey. And I have all of my rock collection right on the wall over there in case I need them. And I wear them for my videos sometimes. I have my books to my left. I have my supplies to my right. I have several journals. The ones that are not in my bedroom. Yeah, I like having a ritual room / work room. If I was a Tremere, I would totally have one as well, and I would, for the most part, definitely live in it, because it's like the coziest place in the whole house. It's the one that you make the most personal, so like, why wouldn't you want to be there? You return to brief the Primogen. You are met at the door and shown to his office immediately. He's writing something at his desk. He looks up, nods, says sit down, and continues writing. Take a seat in one of the chairs in front of the desk and wait for him to be done. A few minutes later, he moves the paper to one side, looks you in the eyes, and asks, "What do you have?" You tell him the rogue Tremere's conclusion on how the regent is the only one in the city who would be able to create the poison. Therefore, it seems very likely that he's the one responsible. You see the Primogen take this in before he growls. Gets up from his chair and starts pacing the room, still quietly growling. Looks like he's right on the edge of frenzy. You sit in the chair and as quietly as your undead body will allow you, You regret that you never tried to learn the basics of obfuscation discipline. Takes good 15 minutes before the Primogen has himself back under control. He drops down in his desk chair. I'm sorry you had to see that. I never gotten along with the Regent, this is no secret. But that he would attack me so blatantly. I suppose he wants my domain. While many have tried and failed, as will he. Unfortunately, he has done nothing I can take to the court. I cannot admit I cannot keep my own domain safe. That would weaken me irrecoverably. He stares out the window contemplatively. You keep your mouth shut. As for you, I consider our original terms fulfilled. If you wish to walk away now, I will grant you the reward promised and will let you go without rancor. However, if you will aid me in shutting down the Regent's machinations for good, I will double the time you are allowed to feed freely in my domain and grant you a major boon. I will not deny that it will likely be dangerous and only you can decide if you're willing to take that risk. You think frantically. He's right that it will be risky, like vastly more so for you than for him. You don't have his connections and resources to keep yourself safe. On the other hand, the reward might be worth it. More time feeding can only be useful. A major boon from the Primogen could come in very handy in the future. What do you do? You two will hate me, but I am not the go all in player, right? So I'm just gonna state that it's too risky and I'm gonna see myself out. And hey guys, if you wanna risk it for a biscuit, you know where the game is. You decided that getting yourself caught between a feuding Primogen and Regent is far too risky. You take the deal and leave. The Primogen nods you out politely. In the following months you hear many rumors. Individual Tremere are disgraced or disappear. Misfortunes befall the red light district. Eventually the situation escalates so far that a massive masquerade violation is only narrowly avoided, though you heard that was more due to luck than anything else. The prince who before had turned a blind eye is forced to intervene. One night the sheriff and his scourges raid the chantry. It is shut down and the regent is exiled from the city, likely sent away in disgrace to wherever the Tremere have their headquarters now. What few Tremere were left also disappear. The Toiler Primogen also vanishes from the city and the rumors do not tell you what happened to him. Privately you think he is too canny to be killed, but you can't be sure. The prince grants his domain to someone else. Unfortunately that happens before your feeding privileges from the Primogen ran out. You don't bother to attempt to see if his successor will uphold the deal. In some ways the city has changed, but in some ways it stayed the same. Your situation is the same as it was before you met the Primogen, and while you have gained nothing, neither have you lost anything. Others cannot say that. You have finished the game! Woo! Yay for me! I am... Sorry though, I'm just not... I'm not that risky. Okay? That is a lot of risk. And I know that it's just a game, but that is still a lot of risk. So that has been Amsterdam by Night, Annals of Conspiracy. It is very well written. I did not really notice any mistakes or anything like that. The background is beautiful. If I had to find minor issues with it, I don't think that there's a drawback to just hacking through the whole game by using disciplines. I used Dominate twice and it's not like my character gets hungrier here. I actually don't know, but I don't think that he does. Blue on red does not show up well. I can still see the button, especially when I highlight it and it turns pink, but the regular blue here does not work very well as a color selection, and I could have definitely done with you having your own music so that I don't have to play the chill beats over and over and over again. That has been Amsterdam by Night though. Pretty good game if you ask me, and it's time to find us another one for tonight, and tonight only. Hey, it's time to drink in Detroit. We are a Detective Alex Barker, a troubled police officer with a terrible secret, as he tackles the case of his life with the help of Beth Harker, a 150-year-old vampire. Alright, let's go. My heart thuds. It's like a drum beating in my ears, and there is no sound again, so hello, chill lo-fi hip-hop mix again. I swallow a glass of wine, and I have heaving gulp as the world falls to pieces around me. In my mind, all I want to do is run away. I hate this feeling, the tension in my shoulders, the shortness of my breath. My body's telling me that this is one of those conversations that's about to change the course of my entire life. I look across the balcony to my wife Quinn as she wipes the tears from her eyes. The ash on her cigarette is long and unattended. It's been one of those nights. We've been together for so long, loved one another so encompassingly, that I can't picture my life without her. She is everything. But right now, we can't even make eye contact. I have this terrible feeling in my gut that the end is nigh. She looks at me, her voice trembling. It's 2012, Trevor! The world is ending! No, I don't even think that we're Trevor, but okay. Do you remember what we said about this? There was a whole conversation. Damn girl, love your earrings! Oh god, no Alex, you look undead. Yeah, we said it was the opportunity of a lifetime, like winning the lottery. And that's what they're offering me. This is the winning ticket, why can't you see that? No, that's what they're offering you. You alone. It was supposed to be for us, and if we couldn't do it together, we wouldn't do it at all. Do you have any idea how few people they welcome into the fold? This is like 1 in a million opportunity. How can you stand between me and eternity? She wipes tears from her cheeks. I know her well enough to tell her that she's been crying because her mind is made up. I'm sorry. I refill my glass from the half-empty bottle. I can see it in her eyes. The relationship is over. She's already mourning who we used to be. 6 years of marriage reduced to nothing over the course of a 6-minute conversation. All that's left is paperwork. I swallowed the wine, not even trying to taste it. I would take it intravenously if I could. Put in a bullet and I shoot it in my brain without hesitation just to feel different. Make one last desperate play to save our future. This is very mean and manipulative. Just gonna say that. All of these options. Like, oh no, you will be hated by me, or I never even loved you. Wow, that just sounds like you're really hurt, love. Or I won't survive with you. Right, and she's leaving, so that's fine. I don't believe you. I can't breathe as she walks over and kisses me for last time. Hold her wrist until she pulls away. Before she can pick up her coat and shut the door behind her, I lift the bottle and drink until it's empty. Oof. 2 years later. What is the fucking point of Detroit? I lean against a wood bar and sip rye on the rocks. It's my third, but probably not my last. I'm at Doyle's pub around midnight. It's a cop bar, which in my experience are all the same. Brick walls, sports on the TV, and vaguely Irish sensibility. My partner Murray stands beside me, shaking his head. He's a pot-bellied, walking mustache, the kind of guy that was born to be a cop. Hell if I know! I'm serious, anything that wasn't abandoned was broken down, burnt up, or collapsed years ago. Empty lots, drugs, homeless. Garbage every fucking place you can put it. This town is the prologue to the apocalypse. Oh yeah, let's just demolish people's living places because the town isn't too well. Yeah, that will solve it. It's not like everybody who then will lose their home will just go somewhere else to live and, you know. Yeah, that will help. Damn shame too. Used to be one of the most important cities in America. Now we got the third highest murder rate in the country, a police department that's understaffed, every problem under the sun. Apparently you also get steady employment, so you know there's that. Makes you pessimistic. And the only thing that makes it better is this right here, partner. He's talking about his drink. The booze washes over me in a wave. It all catches up to at once. I let that familiar numb feeling drown out the loneliness, the anger, the bitter pointlessness of it all. We live atop a pile of shit, Lori. And you and I, we aren't even the shit shovelers. We're the motherfucking shovels, up to our goddamn faces in it. Mary laughs bitterly as I get a text from dispatch. Homicide at Cathedral of the Most Blessed Sacrament. Uniforms and CSI on the scene. Speak of the devil. Another case? It's not our turn yet, is it? It was double this afternoon, so we're up. Shit. Wouldn't be drinking like this if I had known. I would. Murray parks outside a 100-year-old neo-Gothic cathedral with spires and a stained glass rose window. It's old and imposing like the city itself. DPD squad cars and yellow crime scene tapes circle the block. We collect ourselves in the car for a moment. I never worked a murder at church before. Gotta be a cold fucker to kill someone in front of God himself. Honestly, a pretty metal place to die. I mean, how gothic is that? Imagine getting killed by vampires while being toppled over the altar as you watch the moon reflect from the window and hear the sounds of silence as your consciousness trails off. Yeah, that's like a really gothic murder scene. You still believe that Sunday school shit? Gotta believe in something these days. Really, I don't. Nihilism's a bad look, kid. Then stop looking. I pour whiskey from my hip flask into styrofoam coffee cup and fill the lid on the top. Murray knits his brow, watching me. You're good to go on this, partner. Don't worry about it. Murray shrugs as we step out of the car. We duck beneath the yellow tape line, passing a uniformed officer on our way inside. Want to talk with this guy before we get started? Sure, let's talk with the cop. What's going on, officer? It's creepy stuff, detective. You got a real spook show in there. You responded to the 911 call? That's right. Never seen anything like it. Got any leads for us? Sure, put out an APB for an altar boy with a stretched asshole and plastic fangs. Murray and I share a look of confusion. The officer laughs as he opens the door and ushers us inside. Once inside, the sight that greets us is unlike what I've ever seen before. It's hideous. The body of a man in priestly vestments is strapped to the crucifix above the altar, arms outstretched, robes softly swaying in the cathedral draft. The victim's an elderly man. His head is tilted lifelessly onto one shoulder, eyes fixed open, skin ashen and gray. It's like he's watching us as we'd walk down the aisle to meet up with the CSI tech. So, the dude was kinda drained of his blood and hung on a cross. Yeah, okay, this is pretty metal. If you're ever gonna get murdered by a vampire strapped to a crucifix in a cathedral, does not sound like the worst way to go, honestly. I mean, it could be worse. You could be shanked somewhere in the alleyway by more regular people and then worried about your guts spilling out until you very, very slowly die. Or, you know, other things could happen that are a lot less nice. Holy shit, they left him on display. Who the fuck does that? Someone who isn't scared of cops like us. Approaching the altar and there's a crunching sound. At my feet is a trail of grit leading from the front doors to the corpse. Pick up a pinch and roll it between my fingers. Almost looks like sand. Natalie, the CSI tech, stands atop a ladder set up beside the body, inspecting the corpse. Hey Natalie, what's the cause of death? The priest was exsanguinated. That's hardly a drop of blood in his whole body. So where is it? And how did they get it out of him? You gotta love this. 2 little holes in his jugular. Murray and I exchange a confused look. You're shitting me. Not this time. Who is he? Who am I, a detective? I saw someone crying in the church office. Check with them. In the back office, we find a slight young man with red poofy eyes and a dazed look on his face. I knock on the door and let myself in. I'm Detective Barker, Detroit Homicide. This is my partner, Detective Vane. Were you the one who called 911? The young man nods without making eye contact. What's your name? Owen King. I'm the church secretary. What were you doing here so late? I locked the doors after the late-night mass. There was a service tonight? Father Charles always says the night mass. And that's the name of the deceased, Father Charles? Owen nods sadly, his face breaking into sobs. The late night masses, are they well attended? No, sometimes no one comes at all. See anyone strange tonight? Nobody, just a handful of regulars. Has Father Charles got any enemies who you know of? Nobody, he's the nicest man I ever knew. You know why there's sand in the church? Sand? Maybe we'll talk again later. Hey Natalie, what's with the sandy stuff? No idea. Taken some samples, but it will be a while before the lab gets back to us with results. Well, I've seen enough. I'm well aware of how ridiculous this sounds, but you know what this looks like, right? Vampires! Right, vampires. Some lunatic is running around thinking he's a fucking vampire. Like you and I don't get enough problems. Tingle at the back of my mind turns to an itch that even a quick sip from the coffee cup can't scratch. While Murray and Natalie joke about Dracula and the Count from Sesame Street, their voices fade away into a lone drone in the background. I got a pretty good idea of who's behind this. Well, not who, exactly. What? I take out my phone and scroll through text messages between Quinn and I. They're not exactly my proudest moments. Every week or two, in the moment of weakness, I'll send a "How are you?" or "Miss you." None of them have responses. Not what you want to see in a conversation with your dead wife. I take a quick picture of the crime scene and send it. Trouble's brewing for your new friends. Quinn hasn't spoken to me since that night 2 years ago. Tonight she ended us. I faked her death. I lied to her family. I buried an empty coffin. I gave her the clean break from the living world that she wanted. And she doesn't even have the common courtesy to respond. Until tonight. I receive an immediate reply. I'll pass this along. I can't help myself. I immediately text her back. Oh no! Oh, it's very sad text to swallow. I feel this. He has been very angry when she left. But damn, the bro covered for her, like, completely, and he didn't have to. He chose to. And that's so nice. But you can't just go come back. That's not gonna happen. I miss you won't help. Like, it's like receiving a text from a sick puppy with big eyes when nothing that you can do about it, you know? How are you? I stare at my phone, waiting, hoping, praying for some sort of response. It never comes. An hour later, Murray and I are outside watching the coroner's cart Father Chuck's body away. When I get a call from an unknown number, I step into a private alcove and answer. Hello? Is this Detective Alex Barker? Speaking. Your presence has been requested at the Detroit Salt Corporation. Salt Corporation? Yes, salt. You're expected immediately. Hang on, I'm working a crime scene here. I can't just leave. What am I supposed to say to... Hello? Hello? I rejoined Murray at the front door and watched the meat wagon disappear down the street. I got a handle on this, I gotta run. Murray gives me a look. We're on the job, where are you going? Not feeling well. Murray sighs, doesn't wanna say what comes next. You're hitting the sauce too hard, man. Any idiot can see that. I like to party as much as the next guy, but I can't interfere with work. I need you to pull it together, understood? You got me. I'm sorry, partner. Now you had a rough go on these past few years, so I'll cover for you. But we're not making this a habit. It's been 2 years now. You gotta snap out of it and get your head straight, understood? And not seriously, he's not wrong. The Uber driver drops me off at an industrial lot just south of Dearborn. The expanse of the Detroit Salt Corporation lies before me. I wander into a decrepit warehouse looking for signs of life, or otherwise. Noticing a light coming from industrial elevator, shuffle through the darkness. Inside I find a button marked with a blank post-it note. Press it. The elevator descends. Can't tell if the sweat on my brow is from the whiskey, or the way that my heart is itching up to my throat as I'm slowly swallowed by the earth. After what seems like forever, the elevator finally stops. I slide the gate aside and step into an enormous white cavern covered into the rock salt. Torchlight flickers against the walls, emanating from a circle of shadowy figures about 100 yards in front of me. Vampires. Sight brings up a lot of dark feelings. Anger, regret, the bitterness of rejection, but mostly anger. There's a word for a group like this, but I don't remember it. These freaks have all sorts of in-group vocabulary, but it's all Greek to me. I just know that these monsters are the monsters in charge. They're just two, living among us, hiding in shadows, walking the streets and owning businesses and carrying on like human fucking beings. But they're not. They're abominations. And the mess at the church is their problem, not mine. Hearing my approach footsteps, they turn to face me, and that's when I see Gwen. Didn't expect to see her, and for a moment it takes my breath away. She looks pale. No, not pale. Wan is the word. Lifeless. Like a statue or a doll. And she won't meet my eyes. Still, for just a moment, I'm glad to be here. And, dude, I can see why they haven't chosen you. I mean, this is the kind of person that goes, either I'm gonna have this thing, or I'm gonna be very rationally angry with you for the rest of my life for never having this thing. I understand that his wife is involved and he feels regret over that, but he is now finding disgusting precisely the exact same things that he wanted just like a couple of moments ago. Well, a couple of years, but it kind of stands. I'm slightly wondering if we're in the... Yep, there we go, music's back. I'm like, are we in this, silent song again? Dear Prince steps forward and greets me with a bow. I don't reciprocate. That's what they call him, by the way, Prince. I swear to fucking God. Detective, thank you for joining us. Didn't sound like I had a choice in the matter. A snooty-looking fucker in the black steps away from the others to yell at me. Happen to know this guy, Solomon Gregor. He's the one who ensnared Quinn and introduced her to the world of undead. Solomon, you'll address the Prince and Primogen before you with respect or fear. Those are your only choices, Detective. Whatever you say, Chief. Solomon's eyes burn red. Prince chuckles lightly to himself. So good to be in your company again, Detective. I regret the unfortunate reason for the meeting. Seems we have a situation on our hands. Can't help myself from scoffing right in his pompous face. Maybe it's the booze. No, it seems like you have a situation on your hands. But why wouldn't I share information? Like, I'm doing police work, and if they can solve the problem, less problems for me, right? I got a dead priest left hanging from the ceiling at one of the biggest churches in the city. No witnesses, no leads, no blood. That's going to be all over the local news by morning. And now you're all busy dusting your harpsichords and arranging your candelabra. But if you want to maintain that low profile you hold so dear, then I expect the situation to be taken care of in-house by your people. Otherwise, I'm going to have to start sharpening stakes because I'm looking at a cave full of suspects. I think we heard enough out of you. The other vampires cackled to themselves. The prince smirks. I've only met his loyal highness once before and it didn't go well. 2 years ago, Quinn and I applied for membership to their little club. Solomon recommended us after we met him at an art exhibition. A chance meeting that changed everything. Told us we were just that. The elders were looking for in a child. Looking weirdo. The prince is the one who decided I wasn't cool enough to sit at their table. Maybe that I was more useful where I was, I don't know. It's hard to get a read on him. He took Quinn, not me. It's a hard thing to get over. The situation will be handled in-house, as you say, and swiftly. As a matter of fact, the wheels are already in motion. Then I'll be going. I turn to leave, but I hear his voice booming off the walls before I take my first step. Not so fast. Would like you to meet someone. I got enough friends, your highness. She isn't a friend, she's your new partner. Excuse me? Frankly, the photo suggests a disgraceful breach of the masquerade. Something that our kind can be reasonably expected to avoid. I think it's only fair that the living and the dead work this case together until we can be certain. You think a human did this? Precisely, detective. Your jurisdiction. We expect this case to be your top priority and we want it supervised by one of our specialists. You want me working this case and I'll do it alone, because I'm the fucking specialist. But there is a question about your motivations. Prince looks over his shoulder at Quinn. I'll understand if you were bitter, and we would hate to think that you didn't have our best interests at heart. Agreed? I'm not working with anyone. Shut your mouth, morsel! Prince raises a hand, silencing Solomon. Then he takes a menacing step in my direction and lowers his voice. His eyes burn through me. I am the Prince of Detroit, and I will not be questioned. The matter isn't up for debate. You will work the case with my associate, or we will end your life. Suddenly, miraculously, my mind has changed. The prince turns and extends his arm to a woman in a smart dress. She looks like a business executive, high class, well-mannered, uptown. She gives me the slightest nod of the head. Mrs. Beth, I expect you'll get along famously. Good evening, Detective Barker. I look forward to working with you. The following evening, I'm sitting at a booth in an all-night diner across from my new partner. Beth and I have hardly spoken, but I learned a great deal about her already. She's poised, confident, patient. Her striking feature is her eyes. They have brightness and intelligence that not even death could dim. Beth smiles coldly at me as I sip whiskey-spiked coffee and pick at a side of bacon. After meeting in the salt mine, she escorted me back up to the surface and led me to an indistinct luxury car. She drove me home, told me to sleep it off, and said we could get to know one another and get over our case the next night. A few hours ago, just after dusk, she pulled up outside my place and gave me a call. To be clear, I want nothing to do with this, nothing to do with her, nothing to do with any of it. Finally breaks the silence. Have you been a police officer for a long time? A little over a decade. You've been an investigator long? Been helping the Camarilla in this capacity for over 150 years. What's a Camarilla? The ones you spoke with on the ground. We are a sect. We operate much like a city government. That's the government, huh? What's your role? I'm the sheriff of Detroit. Get to carry a 6-shooter. Beth smiles inwardly as though I've said something she's trying not to laugh at. No need. Should we go down to the brass tacks? I was hoping we could dive into some of the details. Bring up the crime scene picture on my phone and set it on the table in front of her. Here, there's not much more to it. That's an awful lot to this photo though. Seemingly random victims are rarely random. Body was left on public display, likely to invoke press involvement. It's a provocative choice of victim too. Taboo! Clinical methodology implies familiarity. Familiarity! Too bad we don't know anyone that's familiar with removing blood from people, huh? Do you not like me in particular, or is it everybody? I work homicide. I don't look murderers. You mean vampires? No, I hate vampires. You only applied to be one, my man. I hate these people. They didn't accept me into their very, very special club. Nah. You would have no problem with killing if it was him. And how are we going to work our way past that? We're not. I'm going to find the vampire I'm looking for, and then I'm going to tear its fucking head off. You can watch me do it if you like. I can be a big help to you. Or you can go back to your coffin and bury yourself for all I care. You know what else you missed in that photo? I don't miss anything in that photo. Whoever did this is going to do it again, or already has. It's written all over the photo, apparently. My phone buzzes on the table between us. A call from Murray. I pick up. Hey partner, what's up? Don't give a shit about how you feel. You gotta meet me downtown right now. We got another body on our hands. More of that kooky vampire shit. You gotta see this one to believe it. I wonder if Beth can hear what Murray's saying from across the table. Smug smile on her face suggests she can. The address Murray gives me is for an apartment building in the heart of downtown. Beth parks on the street and we walk into a place you might charitably describe as a starter studio. In other words, a dump. The uniformed officers in the hall give Beth second and third looks as they point us to the crime scene. We walk past them into an apartment unit that looks like rock and roll pigsty. Band posters cover the walls, dirty dishes and laundry cover everything else. In one corner is a $1,000 record player and amp setup. The other corner is a $100 TV. Murray stands against the wall, scratching his head and staring at a corpse lying in the middle of the floor in utter befuddlement. No. I'm not one of those people that are obsessed with cleanliness. I fully shower twice a week. Because otherwise, it's actually not too good to wash out the oil out of your hair. Because the more you wash it out, the more your hair just goes crazy about producing oil, so you might not want to do that. The more you scrub your apartment, the more chances that you're gonna have pretty bad allergic reactions because everything is completely disinfected. So I am not one for total cleanliness, but laundry and dishes I could not tolerate. I'm like not so obsessed that I will scrub absolutely everything clean. There's probably some pecks of dust here and there, especially considering that my cats fight often and I am seeing a smudge of ash, but it would really irritate me to see something like this. It would really get on my nerves. Murray stands against... Yep. Now I've seen some crazy shit in my time, but this one beats them all. The departed is some punk rock looking kid lying on his back with the murder weapon still sticking out of his chest. All I can say is a stake to the heart. Gotta be fucking kidding me. Do I look like a comedian? Hey Alex, aren't you gonna introduce me to your friend? Before I can open my mouth, Beth takes over. She pulls a wallet from her jacket pocket and flips it to a very official looking ID. Beth Harker, FBI. The feds are already on this. As I explained to your partner on the way up, the Bureau maintains a unit to assist in cases related to paranormal phenomena. Beth eyes bore a hole through Murray, just like the princess burned through me in the salt mine. You can almost see her changing Murray's mind about the ridiculous cover story. Right, yeah, I saw a TV show about that. Maybe you can bring us to speed, detective. Sure. You're looking at Remy Del Rio, local rock star and line cook. When he didn't show up for his shift at the Waffle Hut, his manager called 911 for a wellness check. I think you'll agree, he is decisively unwell. Wow. He misses one check and his manager calls 911? Doesn't, like, even go here himself? Cause of death? You're fucking serious. Dude's got a stake in his fucking heart. And by the way, there's no blood in this guy's body either. Said he's a rocker? Lead singer for a band called The Dead Petals. Goth rock. Thought that shit went out of fashion in the 90s. Maybe that's why I never heard of them. I don't think something can ever go out of fashion. That's the same way as punk is not dead. It can never die. It just is how it is. And I'm quite happy about it, honestly. I remember a goth store in Lithuania when I was a teenager, so what? Late 2000s? As in between 2000 and 2010. 2006? 7? It was such a dingy place. Had pretty cool earrings, though. Makes me want to order some spiky ones again. But it was that one thing. And if you went to other countries, it would also be like one store, and you would have to hunt it down. When I decided to change my style like a year ago, that was so easy. Sure, there aren't a lot of places online, but there's more than enough. And if you want some more low-key clothes, you can go to Amazon or eBay and just look for robe-like things and black long dresses, and you'll find it. That being said, I'm yet to get an actual robe. I feel like I actually should have a robe, but like one that fits absolutely perfectly is hard to locate, so instead I have a lot of hooded dresses, but none of them are quite entirely a robe, and that does bother me a little. Tell me about the Waffle Hut? Get this, he worked in the night shift, exclusively. You know, like a night owl, sure. I mean, I would too if I could. It's nearly 7 AM again. I've seen enough. So to sum this night up, we got a dead priest with no blood and a goth with a stake through his heart. You know what that sounds like, right? Like he's a vampire. Bingo. So who's the one housing in this scenario? You don't think the guy staked himself, do you? No way. Agent Harker? You're the expert. Got any ideas? Beth kneels beside the body and takes a close look. She lifts Remy's top lip and checks his teeth, then dips the point of her pen in his blood and smells it. Rory raises his eyebrows at me. I can tell that he's impressed. Satisfied, Beth stands. Well, he's definitely not a vampire. How do you know? Because vampires are fictional. More importantly, he's not the vampire responsible for Priest's murder. We'll need an ME to give us unofficial time of death, but this young man expired at least a couple of days ago, before Father Charles was killed. I'm annoyed by Beth's assessment, but I guess a bloodsucker like her must know a lot about corpse decay. I can tell how long uncooked chicken has been in the fridge by giving it a whiff, after all. Taking a closer look at the room, I notice a crunching sound beneath my shoes. I lean down and realize there is that grit on the floor. Pick up a pinch of it and roll it through my fingers. More sand, like at the church. Back in Beth's car, she turns up on the GPS and asks, "What do you want to look at first?" about Department's crime lab? I want that sound. This is Detective Barker. Alex, it's me. Hey Natalie, what's up? Got something new for you. You know that white sand from the crime scenes? Turns out it's not sand at all, it's salt. Salt, you sure? No question about it, and get it? It's local. We'll have a full analysis done by tomorrow. Should help us narrow down the exact source. Just thought you should know. Gab's up and Beth and I share a look. The camera. A few hours later, Beth and I are standing in the salt mines giving the camera update. I stand by informing that I don't know. I honestly don't know. You would think it's a vampire because of the blood, but the salt seems like a total setup if you ask me. Like, you wouldn't drag salt from here onto the crime scene. You can wash your shoes beforehand. The salt would end up on the crime scene only if you took the salt from here and moved it to the crime scenes. But at the same time, if you're not a vampire, removing all blood from somebody would be a lot harder, especially without making a mess. I'm still gonna go with vampire, but I'm gonna say a thin blood did it. As there now, a theory is that the murders were perpetrated by a vampire. The priest had distinctive puncture wounds on his neck. And because the body was left on display, we know the murderer wasn't afraid of being caught in the act. The death of the singer reinforces our position. I examined the body closely and determined that he wasn't kindred, which means that the stake through his heart was a planned cue. It's likely a red herring meant to distract us from the fact that he had been drained of blood, just like the priest. Friends of the victim reported seeing him with a woman who had purple hair. Currently, the unidentified woman is our main suspect. Finally, there's this. I hold up an evidence bag filled with salt from this mine. Traces of it were found on the crime scenes, which means that the murderer has been leaving a trail of breadcrumbs leading right to your doorstep. The police are in the dark about this location for now, but the lab will narrow the search down to this mine in a few hours. It won't be long before they trace it back to this very hall. In other words, we need to clear out tonight. This Elysium can never be used again. And why would someone do that? I don't know who it is, and I don't know why, not yet at least, but there's a vampire who's trying to run the Camarilla out of town. The Camarilla watches in rapt silence, the stone-like white faces glistening in the torchlight. Excellent work, both of you. I'm afraid you confirmed our darkest suspicions. Bring out the condemned. My mouth goes dry as I watch two thick vampire goons drag somebody to the front. She's shackled and bedraggled, hair a mess. Her eyes are far away, as though she knows it's all over. Quinn, what the fuck is this? As the two of you were carrying an investigation, I've been conducting my own. We suspected a usurper since the beginning. I'm sure Beth told you that. Look at Beth, she doesn't look back. It doesn't happen often, but from time to time the burden of eternity is too much for a fledgling to bear. Regrets bubble up into the surface, regrets that sometimes make us behave regretfully. Isn't that right, Miss Quinn? I didn't do this, I told you that. Quinn's very own sire, Solomon Gregor, suggested that we search her haven. Lately, her behavior has been erratic and suspicious. Suspicious how? Prince, I think you'll agree that the evidence is found damning, to say the least. Prince tosses something at my feet. I bend over to pick up a dark purple wig. I intend to close the book on this matter tonight, Detective. Your services will no longer be necessary. Before evacuating these hollowed halls, we will commence with the administration of final death. The shadowy fiends chortle and laugh at the prince's condemnation. I feel sick. The camera will drag Quinn to the decrepit warehouse above ground and chain her to the foundation. Two of their minions sleep into the rafters and gleefully tear a hole in the rusted steel roof. In less than an hour, the sun will rise and shine directly on Quinn, burning her to ash. The chains on her wrists and ankles are unbreakable. The locks securing her are unpickable. There's nothing I can do but numbly watch from the shadows. I never felt so helpless. Seeing the vampires leave, running into the night, there's a quiet moment. Quinn and I are alone. She looks at me with bright red tears in her eyes, anguished. Don't know what else to say, so I ask, did you do it? Would it make you feel better if I did? Sure, Alex, sure. You turned me and everything got worse. I made a huge mistake when I left you. I hate my afterlife, so I took my anger out on the camera and left a trail of clues that even the Detroit PD could follow. No, you didn't. No, I didn't. But if you want to believe that, then I can go to oblivion knowing that at least I tried to make things right between us. I know how hollow this will sound given the circumstances, but I'm sorry that I left you. And turned down what they were offering. The opportunity to see the distant future, to know this world its new and incredible way. Conquer death instead of fear it. That what it was to be a vampire? Yes. Didn't kill those people, Alex. I didn't set up the Camarilla. I'm not fucking stupid. But I am scared. Will you stay with me? Sure. Now dying by burning, if you're not prepared for it, would be absolutely brutal. It would be very sad. And I honestly admire all the death duelists that stay there with dying people, because oftentimes they need to know that it is okay to let go. But it's a bit different when you're dying from an ailment of your own body and being burned alive. I don't actually know what kind of mental scarring looking at something like that would ever leave, but everybody deserves a buddy when they go. They do. And also, it's very human to fear death, but there isn't a need. You didn't fear being born, so why would you fear dying? Pain attributed to it, sure. Nobody wants to suffer, but death itself, nah. We share a few more words in the final moments, but those are for me alone. I hold her as the sun comes up. She turns to ash in my hands. It's the worst sunrise of my life. Covered in the burnt remnants of wind, I take the hip flask from my pocket and empty it into my mouth. Spend the entire day lying in her ashes. I cry, I sleep. I long for numbness, but it never comes. The sun eventually sinks beneath the horizon. Darkness envelops me. Not long after, Beth approaches from the shadows and looks pitifully down on me. Not sure what you expected, Alex. We're monsters. Beth drives me to the diner and orders me eggs and coffee. My mind is swimming, but one question doubles to the top of my consciousness. When did the world turn to shit? It didn't. You're at a low point, but recognize that you don't have the same perspective as a vampire. Remember the flu of 1918. Oh, please, no pandemic talk. Both world wars. I know days when I could leave a corpse in the street and nobody cared. If you've seen what I had, you would know. People on the whole are safer, healthier, and more comfortable than they have ever been. Maybe not you, not right now, but things get better. There's slow and steady progress. Even in Detroit, have faith. Your story's not over yet. So what do? Keep trying. And quit drinking. I grimace. She's right. I know it. Embarrassed. There we go. I was like, embraced? I shove my hands in my pockets and I feel something unfamiliar. Hair. I pull out the purple wig. Gwen told me she didn't do it. You believe her? Yeah, she desperately wanted to be a vampire. It was so important to her that she left me. What are you saying? Why would she throw away something that she wanted so badly? Why the wig? She regretted becoming immortal if she was bringing the heat down on the Camarilla. If the whole point was to breach the masquerade. Why the wig? Maybe we missed something. Maybe we did. I find the tag on the wig that leads us to a costume shop across the town. Luckily it's early in the evening and they're still open. I suppose I shouldn't be surprised that the girl behind the counter is wearing a mask. It's off-putting to say the least. Can I help you? We need some information. Let me me show her the pictures of other suspects. Maybe there's someone else from the salt mine she might recognize. Do you recognize any of these faces? That's the guy. He asked me if the wig was pleasing to a young woman like myself. What a creeper. Solomon Gregor. Didn't even make sense. She didn't need a wig. He who? The girl he was with. Here, look. The clerk turns the screen on the store's computer to face us. She scrolls through the video from the previous night until she finds Solomon and a young girl with tattoos and dyed hair. See, her hair was already purple. Beth and I gape at the screen. It's Solomon, no doubt about it. Purple-haired girl that's standing beside him is definitely not Quinn. Beth points to the girl's tattoo, a sword with a circular hilt on the shoulder, the sword of Cain. Purple, I should have known. What is it? Come with me, I'll explain on the way. What's going on? Purple is the color of Sabbat. The Sabbat? Another sect. The Camarilla is just one of the sect of vampires. There are others. The Sabbat reject our traditions, including the masquerade, and purple is the color most commonly associated with them, and that tattoo, it's their symbol, the sword of Cain. So what does this have to do with Solomon and Gregor? Everything. 20 years ago, Detroit was a Sabbat city until a cartel declared war upon the all undead. The city was lost. Then, a few years ago, things cooled off. The Camarilla moved back in, staking a claim on the city, but so did the Sabbat. Telling me the Sabbat vampire turf war? One battle in a worldwide struggle stretching back centuries. The girl with purple hair? She's a Sabbat loyalist. It appears that Solomon has turned on us. He has already run us out of our Elysium, convinced us to kill one of our own. Let's go talk to the prince. I want to take that guy down now. Beth, there better be a good explanation for this. There is. Spend the next several minutes bringing everyone up to speed. I explain how Solomon collected salt from the Camarilla's mines to spread at murder scenes, deliberately breached the masquerade. Yeah, see? I told you that nobody would just, spread salt with their shoes. You're not that dumb. His accomplice, a purple-haired Sabbat loyalist, was used to entice his victims, a priest who hoped to save her and a roguester who hoped to bed her. Plan worked flawlessly. In less than 2 nights, the Camarilla were already run out of their Elysium and killing their own. By the time I'm done explaining how the Sabbat are attacking the Camarilla from within, the anger in Solomon's eyes has withered to a dull acceptance. He knows he's caught. What did they promise you, Solomon? Riches? No! Return to our prime. Why let the cows run the slaughterhouse? Isn't it obvious? Should be in control. Abandon the masquerade and chill in the Lofi Beats universe, because it is still going. It only weakens us. But the Camarilla will never learn, because they're ruled by cowards. Solomon, you went behind our backs. You framed us, leaving your sad little clues everywhere. You breached the masquerade, and you did it by slinking around with our enemies, because you're meant to rule the world? What a pathetic state of affairs. I must apologize. I know that Quint meant a great deal to you. I'm sorry that she was caught up in all of this. An innocent bystander. May I offer you a small token of my regret? It's quite rare for a human to administer final death like this. You realize the magnitude of this proposition. I am definitely executing that dude. This is for Quinn. Bring it down with all my might. Dark blood spills from Solomon's corpse, ruining the rug. I feel bad. It's a nice rug. Prince hands the sword to one of his underlings, who stows it away in the scabbard. Detective, it's time for us to prepare a counterattack, but before we do that, I must tell you something. We'll forever be in your debt for what you and Beth have done for us tonight. We had 2 recent vacancies in the organization. Perhaps I could interest you in joining us. Want to turn me into a vampire? 1 in a million opportunity! You'll see the distant future and you'll never fear death again. I can hardly believe what I'm hearing. Join us! You know, you'll see the distant future rings hollow when they just executed his wife. as I said, I don't necessarily understand the fear of death. I understand the fear of pain and the fear of grievous harm. Not death in itself. We're not necessarily meant to last for a very long time, and the only way in World of Darkness the vampirism would ever be worth it is if you're from the outside looking in. Because if you're just there playing politics, that is miserable. It would be. It would be like standing in a room and shouting, "No you! No you!" for like a prolonged amount of time, but like behind the scenes trying to one-up everybody else. It would honestly be miserable. So if we were in World of Darkness, personally, I would only go with outside sects. For this dude though, he literally witnessed his wife's execution. No way. No. Burn him down. The end. I feel like text is missing from the end, don't you? And anyways, that was Drinking in Detroit. I'm not too sure that I felt anything for this, but as a cop thriller, it's well written. I like how text was above on the picture, pictures being in the background. It makes it less obvious that it's the exact same dark pack assets as everybody else is using. But it also creates a bit of a different atmosphere. One thing that I would have loved for is music. Because once again, otherwise I'm playing my own music, and that's not necessarily fitting, because all I'm looking for with my own music is to, well, not get caught in a copyright dispute with YouTube. That is my only thing that I'm looking in. So, nice little story. Though I wish that the end was a bit more fleshed out. As in, here is where you would put the words of characters' inner monologue as they're walking away, or the prince going, "No, you can't do that," or, you know, what happened in that scene, instead of just the words of the end. I understand the gravity of the decision here, but once again, you have to have some sort of, at least a couple of sentences of characters' inner thoughts would have done it. Otherwise, I feel like this has been sufficiently long as a visual novel, but it didn't overstay its welcome. Like, it didn't use a whole bunch of words that it didn't need to. I skipped some descriptions just for reading speed, because once again, it's 7 a.m. But anything that didn't need to be there wasn't there, and everything that needed to be there was there. So this is a well-polished, well-made product. And if anyone wants to play through it themselves and make different choices, you're free to do so, for the link is in the description down below. Unfortunately, it's gonna be my 31st out of 88 games now, this one. Which means that I'm becoming a little bit jaded to what is possible to accomplish. Especially when I hit Blood Frontier at one point. So, when you have that baseline, you feel bad because a lot of the games that you're playing, despite being unique, imaginative, and well-made, come off as mediocre. Not because they are, because every game is important, and every game is good in its own right, but because some people went above and beyond and, like, made a new bar. So the most enjoyable things for me after encountering the new bar is something that either meets the bar or something that is just so out of the ordinary that it really throws me off. And this is neither of those things. This is like hitting straight bang in the middle of vampire detective story. Which kind of reminds me of like a vampire detective story, but was something to do with Moon. I think it had only one season out, but Google, will you help me with this? Vampire detective story. Moon! Oh god, there's a lot! What? TV series? I actually think it was Blood Ties. I believe it was Blood Ties. That thing only got one season. Yeah, it was, but it was effectively about a vampire detective, and it felt kinda cool as a premise. Wait, series 2? No. Was there a series 2? Was there not a series 2? I am so confused. I think Lithuanian TV only ever showed one series. But anyways, yeah, it kind of sort of reminded me of that, but that's strictly because of the whole detective theme. So like, merging detectives and vampires is like a theme that works perfectly well. But it really doesn't help that this game like hits just like the smack bang in the middle of stories that you would expect out of Vampire the Masquerade universe. But it's well made. But you're like, yeah, it's well made, but there are games that are like hitting up there on the quality scale, and then there are games that are hitting like all the way to the left on the experimental / topics that you wouldn't expect scale, such as magical girls, for example. So it is very, very hard to rate. So all I'm gonna say is that for a game, it's well made. Unfortunately, not very memorable for me, but it is well made. So if anyone wants to play it and enjoy it themselves, please do. And please support the creator because they did put in quite a lot of work. This is a very well made thing. So yeah, thank you all for watching, and when we return, I am gonna be exploring more vampire games because I am very determined to play them all. Even if my viewership like completely drops off and nobody gives a shit, and I'm only at 31 out of 88 and I feel the pressure to speed up, I'm very determined to play them all. So, thank you for watching and see you next time. Toodaloo!